Okay, hello. First of all, let me check if the video is online or not, and I'll also discuss with you that today what's my plan. So it's already 11. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a Pomodoro technique for 25 minutes. I will be studying and then 5 minutes break. And in that 5 minutes, I will be just making a short note or kind of thing. And if I have to do something else like going to the washroom or have some snack, then I will do that. But most probably, I will be here only. Most of the 5 minutes break will be used by me to at least in 5 minutes we can solve 10 to 20 questions, right? So that's more better way of doing it. So let's see if the voice is coming clear. Okay, so it's already very good video. Okay, let's go and just start our study session. Okay, let me set up the timer. Okay, the best timer here is that I will get 8 breaks into 40 minutes. Okay, okay, so let's go for it. Okay, but before that I will also go and check. Okay, I have already made the to-do list and everything. If you want that, I will just share with you. Just go to any of my video and just comment. Maybe the live section video is off, but other videos will be on, I think. The normal videos, go and text there that you need a to-do list for today. Okay, so first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for NCERT microeconomics. Introductory microeconomics. So I think I have to download the entire book so that I can study in a better and efficient manner. Okay. Okay, the network is quite well, but the only problem that we always face is that the website is always not. Any other website you go, you will find the complete book. Like I have one here. Okay, we can go for this also, right? Already I have my NCERT book, so I can compare it also. If there is anything extra, I will just be seeing it. Okay, let's do it from here only. I will be downloading the book. Okay. Yeah. So till it gets done, I will also check the video. Okay, so it's perfect. So here is the book. I have already marked the things I need to do. This is the complete syllabus you need to cover till 5 o'clock. Okay, till 5 o'clock we need to complete this syllabus, and not just reading the syllabus is not enough. You need to understand the concept, because 75% of the syllabus is this only. So first of all, let's start with introduction. Think of any society. I will also open my notes and everything so that I can better understand them. Okay, introduction. Think of any society. People in the society need many goods and services in their everyday life, including food, clothing, shelter. 22 minutes for this chapter. Any society, people in the society need many goods and services in their everyday life, including food, clothing, shelter, transport facilities like roads and railways, postal services, and various other services like that of teachers, doctors. In fact, the list of goods and services that any individual needs is so large that no individual in society, to begin with, has all the things she needs. Every individual has some amount of only a few of the goods and services that she would like to use. A family farm may own a plot of land, some grains, farming implements, maybe a pair of bullocks, and also the labor services of the family members. A weaver may have some yarn, some cotton, and other instruments required for weaving cloth. The teacher in the local school has the skills required to impart education to the students. Some others in society may not have any resource excepting their own labor services. Each of these decision-making units can produce some goods or services by using the resources that it has, and use part of the produce to obtain many other goods and services which it needs. For example, the family farm and perform corn, use part of the produce for consumption purposes, and procure clothing, housing, and various services in exchange for the rest of the produce. Similarly, the weaver can get the goods and services that she wants in exchange for the clothes she produces in her yarn. The teacher can earn some money by teaching students in a school, and use the money for obtaining the goods and services that she wants. The labor also can essentially thus use her resources to fulfill her needs. It goes without saying that no individual has unlimited resources compared to her needs. The amount of corn that the family farm and produce is limited by the amount of resources it has, and hence the amount of different goods. Goods means physical, tangible objects used to satisfy people's wants and needs. The term goods produce, okay, goods are physical, tangible objects to satisfy people's wants and needs. The term goods would be contrasted with the some services which captures the intangible satisfaction of the wants and needs. As compared to food items and clothes, which are examples of goods, we can think of that as the doctors and teachers perform for us as examples of the services. By individual with a division decision-making unit, a decision-making unit can be a single person or a group like a household, a farm, or any. I will be marking only the things that I need to revise, and not all the things, okay? Let me zoom in a little bit more. What are goods? Goods are physical. Goods are physical, tangible objects used to satisfy people's wants and needs. The term contrasts services, but services are intangible satisfaction of wants and needs. As compared to food items and clothes, which are examples of goods, we can think of the tasks that doctors and teachers perform for us, examples of services. By individual, we mean an individual decision-making unit. A decision-making unit can be a single person or a group like household, farm, another organization. This is important, okay? Many times the question comes. By resource, we mean those goods and services to produce, used to produce other goods and services. Example, land, labor, tools, and machinery, etc. Okay? Then we have and services that can, okay. Continuing from here, the amount of corn that a family farm can produce is limited by the amount of resources it has, and hence the amount of different goods and services that it cannot procure. and services that it can procure in exchange of corn is also limited. As a result, the family is forced to make a choice between the different goods and services that are available. It can have more of a good or service only by giving up some of the. Okay, a family can have more of one good or service only by giving up the other goods and services. This is because of scarcity of resources and limited resources in the better. Okay, they have alternative uses also. So, basic economic problems two. The allocation of the limited resources and the distribution of the mix of goods and services. Okay, this is important. In reality, an economy is much more complex compared to the society discussed above. In the light we have discussed, let us now discuss the fundamental concerns of the discipline, and some of which are okay. Central problems of an economy. Production, exchange, and consumption of goods and services are the basic economic activities. Basic economic activities are the first basic problems. This is basic economic activities of life. Production, exchange, and consumption. In the course of this basic economic activities, every society has to face scarcity of resources. It is the scarcity of resources that give rise to the problem of choice. The scarce resources of an economy have competing uses. In other words, every society has to decide on how to use its scarce resources. अच्छा. In other words, every zone has to decide how to use its central user. The problems of an economy are summarized as follows. First of all, let's complete this, okay? Summarized as follows. What is produced and in what quantities it is produced. what is produced and in what quantities. Every society must decide how much of each of the many possible goods and services it will produce, whether to produce more of food, clothing, housing, or to have more of luxury goods, whether to have more agricultural goods or to have industrial products and services, whether to use more resources in education and health or to use more resources in building military services, whether to have more of basic education or more of higher education, whether to have more of use production and consumption tomorrow. Okay. What to produce or how to, in what quantities to produce. How are these resources goods produces to use in the production? Okay, how much of which resources to use in the production of materials, whether to use more of labor or machines, whether to how much of which resources to produce. This comes out how which of these available technologies to adopt in the production of visual. Okay, what to produce, to use, produce. For whom are these goods produced? How much of the goods that are produced and how should the produce are economically distributed among the distribution among the individuals in the economy? What gets what the goods worth, whether or not to share minimum amount of consumption for everyone. The economic faces the problem of allocating the scarce resources to the production of different possible goods and services and of distributing the produced goods and services among the individuals within the economy. Allocating the scarce resources to the production of different possible goods and services and of distributing the produced goods and services among the individuals within the economy. Scarce resources to. Okay, so first is problem of allocating the scarce resources. This goes to what to produce to production of different possible goods and services. How to produce, distributing, the allocation of resource and distribution of final goods and services are the central problems of an economy. Central problems of an economy. These are allocation and distribution. Central problems of an economy. Here we assume that all the goods and services produced are consumed by the people, and there is no scope of getting anything from outside the society. In nearly this is not the general point that is mainly made here about the compatibility of production rules for any country or even an entire world, which is usually devoted to the production of each of the goods and services. Allocation and distribution. Okay, next we have production possibility frontier. Just remember, resources. Produce from a given, okay, this is important. The collection of all the possible combinations of goods and services that can be produced from a given amount of resources and a given stock of technological knowledge is called a production possibility set of the economy. Production possibility set of the economy. As we increase the consumption, we have to decrease the production of cotton. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 2, 4, and 9, 7, 4. Which can produce corn or cotton by using its resources. All the resources are used in the production of corn. This curve is called the production possibility frontier. Production possibility frontier gives a combination of corn and cotton that can be produced when the resources of the economy are fully utilized. Note that a point lying strictly below the production possibility frontier represents a combination of corn and cotton that will be produced when all or some of the resources are either underemployed or are utilized in a wasteful fashion. Underemployed or in a wasteful fashion. The interaction of the individuals pursuing their production, exchange, and consumption of goods and services are made. The government is aware that virtually a particular allocation of funds. Where economic agents can freely exchange their endowments and products with each other. System, it is imperative that there is coordination in the activities of the different constituent parts of the system. Otherwise, there can be chaos. You may wonder as to what are the forces which bring the coordination between the activities of millions of isolated individuals in a market system. Enterprise, which is mutually Microeconomics is study the behavior of individual economic agents in the markets for different goods and services and try to figure out how prices and quantities of goods and services are determined through the interaction of individuals in these markets. In microeconomics, we study the behavior of individual economic agents. Okay, we try to figure out how the prices and quantities of the goods and services are determined through the interaction of individuals in these markets. In microeconomics, and whole, by focusing our attention on macro measures such as total output, employment, and aggregate price level. Here, we are interested in finding out how the levels of these aggregate measures are determined and how the levels of this and how the levels of this aggregate measures change over time. Some of the important questions that are studied in microeconomics was what is the level of total output in the economy? How is the total output determined? How does the total output grow over time? Are the resources of the economy, example, labor fully employed? What are the reasons behind the unemployment of resources? Why do prices rise? What is the level of total output in the economy? How is the total output determined? How does the total output grow over time? Are the resources of the economy, example, labor, fully employed? What are the reasons behind the unemployment of resources? Why do prices rise? Does extra increase as in government microeconomy? Okay, I think there is a blunder. Okay, wait a minute. Let's just check it out. Okay, yeah, I got it. This is not micro. This is macro. Aggregate and micro measures of performance of the economy. Plan of the book. This book is meant to introduce you to the basic ideas in microeconomics. In this book, we will focus on the behavior of the individual consumers and producers of a single commodity and try to analyze how the price and the quantity is determined in the market for a single commodity. Want to introduce you to the basic ideas in microeconomics. In this book, we will focus on the behavior of the individual consumers individual component producers of a single commodity and try to analyze how the price and the quantity is determined in the market for a single commodity. This book is meant to introduce you to the basic ideas in microeconomics. In this book, we will focus on the behavior of the individual consumers and producers of a single commodity and try to analyze how the price and the quantity is determined in the market for a single commodity. Chapter 2. We shall study the consumers' behavior. Chapter 3. Rules of the basic ideas. chapter 4 study the consumer chapter perfectly market how to fix some other forms of market consumption scarcity market done next economic development macroeconomics done production done production possibilities done market economy done positive analysis done macroeconomics done exchange done scarcity production possibilities of production to cost market economy internally planned economy means economy theory of consumer behavior. In this chapter we will consumer's choice in the market. We will then use this descriptions to find out the consumer's choice in the market. Okay. Preliminary notations and assumptions. A producer in general consumes many goods, but for simplification of the consumer's choice problem in a situation where only two commodities are present, we will refer to the two commodities as good one and good two. Any combination of the amount of the two good will be called a consumption bundle or in short a bundle. Generation one to denote the amount of good one, x to denote the amount of two, x1 and x2 can become zeros, can be positive or zero. Would mean the bundle consisting x1 amount of good one and x2 amount of good two. For example, values of x1, x2 would give a particular bundle. For example, okay, so this is the basic assumption. We shall use the term goods to mean goods as well as services. Okay. The assumption that there are only two goods simplifies the analysis considerably and allows us to understand some important concepts by using simple diagrams. Simplifies the analysis considerably and allows us to understand some important concepts by simple diagrams. The consumer's budget. Let us consider a consumer who has only a fixed amount of money income to spend on two goods or the prices of which are given in the market. The consumer cannot buy any and every combination of the two goods that she want to consume. The consumption manager that are available to the consumer depend on the prices of the two goods and the income of the consumer. fixed amount of money income to spend on products the prices of which are given in the market. The consumer cannot buy any and everything of the two goods that she may want to produce. They have fixed amount of money income to spend on two goods, the prices of which are given in the market. The consumer cannot buy any and every combination of the two goods that she cannot buy any and every combination of the two goods that she may want to consume. The consumption bundles that are available to the consumer depend on the prices of the two goods and the income of the consumer. The consumption bundles that are available to the consumer depend on the prices of the two goods and the income of the consumer. Less than or equal to her income. This is known as budget sub. Suppose the income of the consumer is M and the prices of the two goods are P1 and P2 respectively. The consumer wants to buy X1 units of good 1, she will have to spend P1 X1 amount of money. Similarly, if the consumer wants to buy X2 amount of good 2, she will have to spend P2 X2 amount of the money. Therefore, if the consumer wants to buy the bundle X1 good of 1 and X2 units of good 2, she will have to spend P1 X1 plus P2 X2 amount of money. She can buy this bundle only if she has at least P1 X1 plus P2 X2 amount of money. Given the prices of the goods and the income of the consumer, she can choose any bundle. She can choose any bundle. In other words, was less than or equal to, in other words, the consumer can buy such that, okay, this is the equation of the budget constraint. The budget constraint available to the consumer is called a budget set. The budget is a collection of all the bundles that a consumer can buy with her income at the prevailing prices. Money that the consumer has to pay per unit of the goods she wants to buy. If rupees the unit of amount quantity of the goods kilograms the price of the wants to buy. Next we have budget line. Budget line if both the goods are perfectly divisible. The consumer budget set would consist of all bundles. They are perfectly divisible. The consumer budget set would consist of all bundles X1 and X2. Perfectly divisible. Are any numbers greater than or equal to 0? with horizontal intersect M by P2 and vertical intersect M by P2. Slope of the budget line is minus P1 by P2. Important, okay? Minus P1 by P2. Derivation of the slope of the budget line. The slope of the budget line measures the amount of change in good 2 required per unit of change in good 1. Along the budget line, consider any 2 points x1 and x2 and del x1 right from the budget line. The goods considered are not divisible and are available only in integer units. User elements that are available in non-integer units. Del x2 by del x1 minus p1 by p2. This one is important again. Greek letter delta change price ratio and the slope of the budget line. Such a point represents a bundle which cost the consumer her entire budget. Now suppose the consumer wants to have one more unit of good one. She can do it only if she gives up some amount of good other good. P1 by P2 units of good 2. Therefore, if the consumer wants to have an extra unit of good 1, when she is spending all her money, she will have to give up P1 by P2 units of good 2. The absolute value of the slope of the absolute value of the slope of the budget line measures the rate at which the consumer is able to support within she spends her entire budget. Slope of the new budget line is the same as the slope of the budget line prior to the change in the consumer's income. This is important. However, the vertical intercept has changed after the change in income. Return on income vertical increases and hence there is a parallel outward shift in the budget line. Set of available bundles resulting from changes in consumers' income when the prices of the two goods remain unchanged are shown in figure 2.3. This is important. M increases, no, decreases. M decreases. M increases. This one P1 to P dash, but the price of the good to and the consumer remain in the change in the new button. Okay. basis of her taste and preference over the bundles in the budget set, consumer chooses the consumption bundle. Well-defined preferences to the sets of all the possible. She can compare any two bundles. In other words, between any two bundles, she either prefers one to the other or she is indifferent to the two. Prefers or is indifferent to the two. Furthermore, it is assumed that a consumer can rank the bundles in order of her preferences over them. Rank the bundles in order of her preferences over them. Over them. The simplest example of ranking is the ranking of all students according to the marks obtained by gender last annual exam. Suppose the preferences of the consumer over the main point 1 and 2 are as follows. The consumer most preferred bundle is 2 monotonic preferences. When a bundle has at least one more than or no less of the other good, does the consumer prefer monotonic if and only if they between any two bundles the consumer prefers the bundle which has more of at least one of the goods and no less of the other good as compared to the other bundle. For example, consider one to do one bundle is more of the first good as compared to the other bundle. If the consumer's preferences are monotonic, these two bundles can be indifferent only if the bundle having more of the first good has less of good two as compared to the good other bundle. Such that one bundle has more of the first good as compared to the other bundle. If the consumer preferences are monotonic, these two bundles can be indifferent. More of the first good has less than. If the bundle having more of the first good has less of good two is compared to the other. Suppose suppose the consumer is indifferent between the bundle one and x1 implies that x1 0 then x2 less than 0 and if further the derivative assumption is given by the absolute value of x2 by x1. The substitution is the amount of good that okay, this is important. Okay, here measures the consumer's willingness to pay. That obtained was captures the importance of a consumer's preference. It's great. So I'm going on 2 minutes break. Now, diminishing rate of substitution, the consumer's preference assumed to be such that she has more of good one and less of good two. The amount of good two as she would be willing to give up for an additional go down. The consumer's willingness to pay for good one in terms of good two would go on declining as she has more declining as she has more of good one. In other words, as the amount of good one increases, the rate of substitution diminishes. Preferences of this kind is called convex preferences. An indifference curve joins all the points representing bundles which are considered as indifferent by the consumer. To the set of all, this is important, okay, convex preferences. So, consumer preferences to the set of available bundles can often be represented diagraphically. We have already seen the bundles available to the consumer can be plotted as points in a two-dimensional diagram. In a two-dimensional diagram, the points which are indifference curve. And points below the indifference curve. Points above the indifference are equal to bundles represented by the points on the indifference curve are preferred to the bundles represented by points below the indifference curve. Shape of the indifference curve, the rate of substitution and the slope of the indifference curve. Slope of the at any point measures the rate of substitution of the consumer at that point. Small changes the absolute value of the slope of the indifference curve at any point measures the rate of the substitution of the consumer at that point. Usually, for small changes, the rate of substitution between good 2 and good 1 is called the marginal rate of substitution, MRS. Marginal rate of substitution, MRS. Preferences are monotonic and increase in the amount of good 1 along the indifference associated with the decrease in the amount of good 2. Is negative. Slope of indifference curve is negative. Preferences implies that the indifference curve are downward sloping. The maximum rate of substitution done indifference converts to the origin. Downwards. And increase in the amount of good 1 along the indifference curve. The indifference curve slows downwards and increase in the amount of good one along with the increase in indifference curve is associated with a decrease in the amount of good 2. If del x1 greater than 0, then del x2 less than 0. Diminishing daily imaginary rate of substitution.
স্নান করে আইলো জামা কাপড় পরলো তাও বলে চাকা চাকা হয়ে যায় আসলে কি কাম করে না যে কাম না করতে করতে এগুলি ধুলাবালি সহ্য হয়
তা কাম করি দাও করো
কেউ তো কিছু করে না
করো ও করে না আর এটা প্রবলেম ও তো কোনো কিছু পরেও না
কি করবো বই নিয়ে ঠিকই বয়ে দেয়
না
বই নিয়ে বয়ে দেয় বই নিয়ে বইলে কি বইতে তো কামে লাগাইতে লাগবে নিজে উচ্চারণ করতে পারে না কিন্তু বেচারি বই খুলে পাতা খুলে বয়ে দেয় বইয়ের পাতার
diminishing rate of substitution. The one willing to give up an experiment of good one declines as the good one declines as the consumer has more and more unit of give. Indifference map a family of indifference was zero in the case of bundles and iron of the first consumer is lower than one. Indifferent when the consumer's preferences overall the bundles can be represented by a family of indifference curves as shown in figure 2.9. This is called an indifference map of the consumer. All points on an indifference curve represent bundles which are considered indifferent by the consumer. All the points on an indifference curve represent bundles which are considered indifferent by the consumer. Monotonicity of preferences imply that between any two indifference curves the bundles on one which lies above one refer to the bundles on one. Utility often it is utility often it is possible to represent preferences by assigning numbers to bundles in a way such that the ranking of bundles are we have learned ordinal approach and now we are going to start the cardinal approach. Ranking of bundles is preserving the ranking would require assigning the same number to indifferent bundles and higher numbers to preferred bundles. The numbers assigned to the bundles are called the utilities of the bundle. The representation of preferences in terms of utility numbers is called a utility function or utility representation. Thus, a utility function assigns a number to each and every available bundle in a way such that between any two bundles, if one is preferred to the other, the preferred bundle gets assigned a higher utility number, and if the two bundles are indifferent, they are assigned to the same utility number. Two bundles are indifferent, then they are assigned to the same utility number. It is important to know that the preferences are basic and the utility numbers merely represent the preferences. The same preferences can have many different utility representations of two different utility representations. You want 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 45, 35, 28, 20, and optimal choice of the consumer. In the last two sections, we discussed a set of bundles available to the consumer and also about her preferences to those bundles. In the last two sections, we discussed a set of bundles available to the consumer and also about her preferences to those bundles. While which bundle does she choose in economics? Which bundle does she choose? In economics, it is generally assumed that a consumer is a rational individual. Consumer is a rational individual. A rational individual clearly knows what is good, and what is bad for her, and in any given situation, she always tries to achieve the best for herself. Thus, not only does a consumer have well-defined preferences for with a set of available bundles, she also acts according to her preferences. From the bundles which are available to her, she also chooses the one which she prefers the most. Consider consumer. In the earlier sections, it was observed that the budget set describes the bundles that are available to the consumer for can also be to move the point on the highest possible minimum given the budget.
How? Dono খাইছে যে dono dono.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hey.
If such a point exists, where would it be located? The optimum point would be located on the budget line. If such a point exists, then where would it be located? The optimum point would be located on the budget side. Such a point exists, where would it be located? Optimum point would be located on the budget side. A point below the budget line cannot be optimum compared to a point below the budget line. There is always some point on the budget line which contains more of at least one of the goods and no less of the other, and is therefore preferred by a consumer whose preferences are monotonic. Contains more of at least one whose preferences are monotonic. Therefore, if the consumer preferences are monotonic for any point below the budget line, there is some point on the budget line which is preferred by the consumer. Points above the budget line are not available to the points above the budget line are not available to the therefore optimum most preferred bundle of the consumer would be on the budget line. Equality of the marginal rate of substitution and the ratio of the prices. The optimum bundle of the consumer is located at the point where the budget line is tangent to one of the indifference curves. Okay, this is important. Okay, this box is very important. If the budget line is tangent to an indifference curve at a point, the absolute value of the slope of the indifference curve MRS and that of the budget line MRS was minus P1 by P2, and that of the budget line, I'll just check it out. price ratio, MRS and price ratio are the same at that point. Recall from RN that the slope of the increment is the rate of at which the consumer is willing to substitute one good for the other. The slope of the budget line is the rate at which the consumer is able to substitute one good for the other in the market. P1 is also price ratio, but again we have also x2 by x1. At the optimum, the two rates would be the same. At optimum, the two rates would be the same. To see why, consider a point where there is not so. Suppose the MRS is at such a point is 2, and suppose the two goods have the same price. At this point, the consumer is willing to give up 2 units of good 2 if she is given an extra unit of good 1.
I don't know. Bad লাগে